There comes a moment in life when you've fought long enough, against people, against time, against yourself. You reach a point where your grip begins to hurt more than what you're holding on to. That's the moment Alan Watts spoke of, the moment of release, when letting go is no longer an act of loss, but of liberation. We spend so much of our lives trying to control the uncontrollable, forcing meaning into moments that were never meant to be caged. Yet, life is not a battle to be won. It's a flow to be joined. And the paradox is this: the freedom you've been chasing all along only begins when you finally stop trying to control everything. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means surrendering to what is. Watts believed that the root of suffering lies in our resistance to reality. We want permanence in a world built on change, certainty in a life designed to move. We cling to relationships that have run their course, identities that no longer fit, and dreams that belong to who we used to be. But the tighter we hold, the more life slips through our fingers. To let go is to finally realize that nothing real can be lost. Only illusions can die. And in their place, something more authentic begins to breathe. There's an incredible peace that follows surrender. It doesn't arrive like a lightning strike. It unfolds quietly, like dawn breaking through night. You stop fighting the flow and start floating with it. The weight you've carried for years begins to dissolve. And for the first time, life feels light, not because it changed, but because you did. Watts said that the art of living lies in the balance between letting things happen and making things happen. When you find that balance, life no longer feels like a test. It becomes a dance. Imagine standing by the ocean. Try to push back the waves. It's exhausting, impossible, and entirely unnecessary. That's what resistance does to the soul. But the moment you stop pushing, you notice something beautiful. The waves were never against you. They were always trying to carry you. Letting go allows you to rise with the tide instead of drowning beneath it. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. The wisdom to trust that the rhythm of life knows what it's doing, even when you don't. So maybe the real question isn't what you need to let go of, but why you're still holding on. What if freedom has been waiting, patiently, behind every fear you refuse to release? What if all the struggle, all the control, all the resistance was never about losing anything, but about remembering how to flow again? The truth, as Watts would say, is simple. When you finally let go, life stops being something you endure and becomes something you experience, freely, fully, and fearlessly. We live in a world that teaches us to hold on, to plans, to people, to control. From the moment we are born, we are taught that security is found in certainty. But Alan Watts revealed that certainty is an illusion, a trick of the human mind craving permanence in a universe that knows only change. Everything around you, every sound, every breath, every heartbeat is in motion. The clouds move, rivers flow, even the stars shift across the sky. And yet we spend our days trying to freeze what was meant to move. The moment we cling, we suffer because what we hold on to begins to decay in our grip. Watts often said that clinging is the root of anxiety. We cling to outcomes, trying to force life to unfold on our terms. But life doesn't belong to us. We belong to it. When you try to control life, you're like a child trying to hold water in your hands. The harder you squeeze, the faster it escapes. The tragedy is that most people never realize that freedom doesn't come from control. It comes from trust. To trust life is to allow it to breathe through you, to flow as it wishes, without resistance. That doesn't mean becoming passive. It means becoming aligned, a participant, not a prisoner, of the unfolding. You see, letting go is not an act of weakness. It's an act of courage. It requires a deeper strength than control ever will. Control is built on fear. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of the unknown. Letting go, however, is built on faith, not blind belief, but faith in the intelligence of life itself. Watts described this as the wisdom of insecurity. It's the profound understanding that safety isn't found in what you hold. It's found in your ability to release. To live freely is to dance with uncertainty, to meet each moment as it arrives, not as you demand it to be. And what happens when you stop resisting? The noise quiets. The weight lifts. You realize that the chaos you feared was never in the world. It was in your struggle against it. When you surrender, the external world doesn't change, but your inner world transforms completely. The ocean still has waves, but you stop fighting them. You float. You trust. You move with the rhythm instead of against it. And that's when you discover something miraculous. The current was never trying to drown you. It was trying to teach you how to swim. Letting go is the art of remembering that you were never in control to begin with. Everything you've lost, every person, every opportunity, every moment, was never yours to keep, only to experience. Watts said that life is not a possession, but a process, a constant symphony of creation and dissolution. Once you stop trying to hold the music still, you can finally hear its beauty. Because the song was never meant to be frozen. It was meant to be lived, note by note, breath by breath, moment by moment. There's a strange paradox in the act of letting go. The very thing you fear losing becomes lighter the moment you release it. Alan Watts often compared this to breathing. If you try to hold your breath, you suffocate. If you release it, you live. The same applies to everything you cling to. The more tightly you hold, the less alive it becomes. People spend years trapped in relationships, careers, and identities that no longer fit, because they fear what might happen if they let go. But the truth is, holding on doesn't preserve what you love, it slowly kills it. Freedom comes when you love without possession, give without control, and live without demand. The ego, of course, resists this truth. The ego believes that letting go means disappearing. It equates surrender with death, because the ego survives by maintaining control. But Watts revealed that the ego is just a story, a collection of memories, beliefs, and fears pretending to be you. When you let go of control, it's not you who dies. It's the illusion that you ever needed control to be safe. In that death, something far more authentic is born: awareness. Awareness doesn't need to control life, because it is life. It moves with the flow, not above it. Think of a river. Its strength is not in its resistance, but in its movement. A river flows around rocks and obstacles with grace, never forcing, never clinging, always adjusting. That's how life intends for us to move, fluidly, effortlessly, naturally. Watts taught that to align with this flow is to discover real freedom. Freedom doesn't mean escaping the currents of existence. It means learning how to glide through them with trust. It means realizing that the river knows where it's going, even when you don't. But there's something terrifying about that realization, isn't there? To admit that you don't know what comes next is to step into the unknown completely naked, without the armor of plans or guarantees. Yet this is exactly where awakening begins. The unknown is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally. It holds possibilities that control could never imagine. Watts would remind us that the mystery of life is not something to fear. It's something to fall into. And the deeper you fall, the more life begins to reveal itself as a vast, intricate dance of connection and meaning. And in that dance, you find peace. Not the fragile peace that depends on everything going right, but the enduring peace that comes from no longer needing to hold everything together. You begin to realize that life doesn't require your supervision. It's been flowing long before you arrived, and it will continue long after you're gone. Letting go is not losing control. It's remembering that you never lost connection. And once you truly understand that, every breath, every choice, every moment becomes a quiet act of freedom. There's an invisible tension that rules most lives, the constant battle between what is and what should be. We are taught to chase ideals, to fix, to force, to perfect. Yet, as Alan Watts observed, perfection is a mirage, the endless pursuit of something that doesn't exist outside the mind. The world itself is already complete in its imperfection. The tree that bends in the storm doesn't curse the wind for being strong. It moves, it adjusts, and because of that, it survives. Letting go means learning to bend without breaking. It means accepting that the flow of life will never match the rigid plans of the ego. And that's not failure. That's freedom. Most people believe freedom is doing whatever they want. But what's flipped that idea completely? True freedom, he said, is the absence of compulsion, the ability to live without being a slave to your desires, your fears, or your need for control. Letting go is not escaping life's weight, but realizing you are the one tightening your grip on it. The tighter you hold the illusion of control, the more enslaved you become. But once you release that need, you begin to float. Not because life has changed, but because you stop fighting its natural rhythm. This doesn't mean becoming indifferent or detached from the world. It means participating fully, but without trying to possess the outcome. When you plant a seed, you water it, you nurture it, but you don't pull it from the soil every day to check if it's growing. That's what control does. It uproots what was meant to unfold naturally. Letting go means doing your part and trusting the process beyond it. What's described this as living effortlessly, not because life becomes easy, but because resistance dissolves. The energy you once spent controlling now fuels creation. And yet, letting go doesn't happen all at once. It's a gradual surrender, layer by layer, expectation by expectation, identity by identity. Every time you release something that no longer serves you, a new space opens within. And in that space, something powerful enters, presence. The moment you let go, you stop living in the future or the past. You return to now, the only place life truly exists. What's taught that the present moment is not a bridge to somewhere else. It is the destination. And once you experience that truth, the mind's grip weakens, and the soul begins to breathe. Then, for the first time, you notice the stillness beneath the noise, a deep, unshakable peace that was never gone, only hidden behind all the striving. You realize that life doesn't demand your control, it invites your cooperation. It asks not that you force it, but that you trust it. And in that trust, everything changes. The storm still comes, but it no longer terrifies you. The uncertainty remains, but it no longer defines you. You've learned the secret that what's spent is life teaching. When you let go of trying to hold the world, you finally discover that it was holding you all along. Letting go also transforms how you relate to others. Most relationships, whether personal or professional, are built around attachment. Expectations of how someone should act, feel, or love. But Alan Watts believed that love cannot exist where control does. To love someone is to allow them to be exactly who they are, without trying to mold them into your image. It's realizing that connection thrives not through ownership, but through freedom. The beauty of any bond lies in its fragility. The fact that it exists not because you hold it tightly, but because you let it move, breathe, and evolve on its own. When you let go in relationships, fear begins to dissolve. You stop clinging to people out of loneliness or insecurity and start appreciating them as mirrors, reflections of your own inner state. Every conflict, every disappointment becomes an opportunity to see where you're still holding on. What's said that the ego uses others as anchors to feel stable, but awakening means realizing that you were never adrift to begin with. You don't need to tie yourself to anyone to stay afloat. You are the ocean, vast, complete, and endlessly capable of connection without captivity. This truth also applies to loss. When people leave or life changes, our instinct is to resist, to hold tighter. But letting go means allowing the natural rhythm of departure. What's compared it to the autumn leaves falling from a tree? The tree doesn't chase them, nor does it mourn. It simply trusts that new growth will come when it's time. The same principle applies to life. When something leaves, it's creating space for what's meant to arrive. The only pain comes from fighting the rhythm of that exchange. And with each act of release, you grow lighter. The world doesn't shrink when you let go. It expands. The boundaries between yourself and life begin to blur. You start to sense what's called the unity of being, the understanding that there is no true separation between you and the universe. You are not a person experiencing life. You are life experiencing itself as you. When this realization takes root, control becomes irrelevant. You no longer need a grasp because you realize you were never separate from the flow you feared losing. Eventually, you stop asking how to let go because you become the letting go itself. It's no longer something you do. It's something you are. You've moved beyond the struggle of release into the simplicity of trust. There is no more battle between your will and the will of life because they have become the same thing. And that's the paradox what's loved most. The moment you surrender, you win. The moment you stop holding, you receive. And the moment you let go, you finally come home, not to the world outside, but to the stillness within. Letting go reshapes the way you experience time. When you live in resistance, you're either haunted by the past or obsessed with the future. But when you release control, you begin to live where life actually happens, in the now. Alan Watts often said that the present moment is not a narrow point between then and later, but an infinite space where existence unfolds. The mind loves to escape into memories or expectations, because both give the illusion of control. Yet the present is untamable. It cannot be planned or contained, only experienced. And that's precisely where your freedom hides, in the flow of what is happening right now. The irony is that the more you try to plan life perfectly, the more it resists your plans. Watts compared it to trying to smooth water with your hand. The more you press, the more ripples you create. Control distorts, but trust restores balance. When you let go, the surface of the mind calms, and you can finally see clearly. The clarity you've been chasing through effort arrives only when effort stops. Life was never trying to withhold peace from you. You were simply too busy grasping for it to notice that it was already there, waiting. And when you begin to live from this awareness, you discover a new kind of rhythm, one that doesn't depend on predictability. You stop forcing outcomes and start participating in the unfolding. Life starts moving through you rather than against you. What's called this Wu Wei, the principle of effortless action. It means acting in harmony with the flow of life instead of fighting it. You still make choices, but those choices arise naturally, without struggle. They feel intuitive, aligned, as if life itself were guiding your steps. Letting go also teaches you how to trust the intelligence of uncertainty. The ego thinks it knows what's best, but life is infinitely wiser. The job that slipped away, the relationship that ended, the silence that followed, these were never punishments, but redirections. Every time something falls apart, something deeper falls into place. What's said that the universe plays hide and seek with itself. It loses, it forgets, and then it remembers. In those moments of loss, you are simply remembering a deeper order hidden beneath apparent chaos. Over time, surrender stops feeling like a risk and starts feeling like home. You realize that the very same life you were afraid to trust has been carrying you all along. The need to control, the fear of change, the obsession with certainty, they all dissolve into quiet understanding. Freedom, as Watts described it, is not about breaking free from life, but falling freely into it. It's the realization that the river never needed your permission to flow. It simply needed your willingness to float. When you reach this level of awareness, you start to notice how letting go transforms the smallest details of daily life. The morning rush feels different. Conversations feel lighter. Even waiting in silence feels sacred. That's because surrender rewires your relationship with experience. You no longer demand that life entertains or pleases you. You simply allow it to be. Watts believed that when you drop the illusion of control, you regain your sensitivity to beauty. Suddenly, ordinary things shimmer with presence. The breeze, the sound of laughter, the way sunlight moves across a room. They all become reminders that existence itself is the miracle you were searching for. This sensitivity doesn't make you fragile. It makes you alive. When you stop numbing yourself with control, you begin to feel everything more vividly. Joy becomes deeper, sadness becomes softer, and even pain feels purposeful. Watts said that pain only becomes suffering when we resist it. The moment you accept what you feel, resistance collapses, and what remains is pure experience, raw, real, alive. Letting go doesn't remove the storms of life, but it teaches you how to dance in the rain without fear. As this new awareness takes root, your priorities shift. You stop chasing more and start valuing enough. You realize that peace doesn't come from accumulation, but from alignment. Blind ambition begins to lose its appeal because you no longer feel the need to prove your worth. You understand what Watts meant when he said, "You don't look out there for God, something in the sky. You look within." The freedom you sought was never in achievement or approval. It was in presence, the ability to simply exist without needing to justify your existence. Letting go also reveals a subtle truth. What you release always returns to you in a higher form. When you release attachment, love deepens. When you release fear, creativity blooms. When you release control, harmony finds you. Life doesn't take away what you let go of. It transforms it. What's compared this to exhaling before you inhale? You must empty yourself to be filled again. The emptiness you fear is actually fertile ground. The space created by release is where new life begins to grow. And eventually, you stop seeing letting go as something to do and begin to see it as something to be. It becomes your natural state, a quiet openness that trusts the movement of life without interference. You stop standing at the edge of the flow, and you step fully into it. There is no more grasping, no more pretending to control the tide. There's only breathing, flowing, being. As Watts would say, the meaning of life is just to be alive. Not to hold it, not to fix it, but to experience it completely, one breath, one moment, one letting go at a time. At this stage of awakening, letting go begins to reshape not only how you see life, but how you live it. You start to realize that freedom was never something to gain. It was something to remember. You were born free, flowing, open to experience. Then came conditioning, the beliefs, fears, and expectations that taught you to grip, to control, to protect. But Alan Watts often said that growing up is not about becoming something new. It's about remembering what you already are. The art of letting go is the art of returning to your natural rhythm, your spontaneous flow, your effortless connection to existence itself. When you live from this remembering, even challenges feel different. Pain, loss, and uncertainty stop being enemies and start becoming teachers. Every ending feels like an invitation to trust deeper, to soften further. Watts described this beautifully when he said that the more a thing tends to be permanent, the more it tends to be lifeless. To cling to permanence is to resist growth, but to let go is to make space for the eternal dance of creation and destruction that sustains the universe. You begin to see that nothing truly dies. It only changes form. The falling leaf becomes soil. The broken heart becomes wisdom. The closed door becomes direction. With this awareness, gratitude replaces fear. You no longer thank life only for what feels good. You thank it for everything, for the storms, the silences, the delays, the unexpected detours. Because you can finally see that everything has purpose. You no longer pray for things to go your way. You pray to understand the way things go. Watts believed that faith is not the belief that life will always be kind, but the trust that life always makes sense, even when it doesn't yet appear that way. That trust is the heartbeat of true freedom. You begin to notice how light you feel when you stop resisting. The energy once spent holding on now becomes available for creation, for presence, for love. You move through the world differently, not with haste, but with harmony. People feel it in you, a quiet peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. You become proof of what Watts called the wisdom of insecurity, living without guarantees, yet deeply secure in the unfolding. You start flowing like water, adaptable, soft, yet powerful enough to carve mountains over time. And then one day, without effort, you realize you've stopped asking, "How do I let go?" Because you've already become the letting go. There is no longer a boundary between you and life. You are one with it. You no longer chase freedom. Your freedom. The same world that once felt chaotic now feels sacred. The same moments that once felt meaningless now feel divine. You stop trying to make life work for you, and instead, you've allowed life to work through you. That's when the deepest truth dawns. Letting go was never about losing control. It was about remembering you were never separate from the flow to begin with. As you continue to live in this state of surrender, the concept of letting go evolves beyond practice. It becomes your very nature. You stop measuring progress, comparing paths, or trying to prove enlightenment. Watts taught that the moment you think you've achieved awakening, you've lost it, because awareness cannot be possessed. It can only be lived. The ego wants to claim freedom as a trophy, but true freedom leaves no trace. It's the quiet knowing that nothing needs to be added or removed for life to be complete. It already is. You begin to see that the essence of peace lies not in effort, but in presence. In this awareness, you become intimate with the rhythm of existence, expansion and contraction, birth and decay, inhale and exhale. Each breath reminds you that life itself is an act of letting go. Every exhale is a death of the moment before. Every inhale, a rebirth. You understand now that resistance was never natural. Flow was. What's often said that life is music, and the beauty of music lies in its impermanence. The notes fade, yet the melody remains. To live in harmony with that truth is to find joy even in endings, and meaning even in silence. This state of freedom transforms the way you see others still caught in control. You no longer judge them for their struggle. You recognize the fear you once carried. Instead of preaching, you embody peace. Your calm becomes contagious. Your presence a quiet invitation. People are drawn to the stillness in you, sensing a truth they can't quite name. You don't need to explain it, because truth needs no defense. As Watts said, the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. By living this way, you become a living reminder that peace is not found, it's remembered. And the beauty of this realization is that it never ends. Letting go is not a single moment. It's an eternal rhythm. Each day brings new opportunities to release a thought, a fear, an attachment. The journey is continuous, but never heavy. The more you release, the lighter you become. The lighter you become, the more life moves through you. And eventually, you discover that letting go isn't about freeing yourself from life. It's about freeing life within yourself. That's when the true flow begins. In the end, the freedom that comes when you finally let go is not loud or dramatic. It's silent, subtle, and profoundly alive. It's waking up one morning and realizing that nothing outside of you has changed, yet everything feels different. The noise of control is gone, replaced by the quiet hum of being. You've stopped reaching, stopped forcing, stopped pretending. You're simply here, breathing, witnessing, existing, and that is enough. As Alan Watts said, to let go is to be still, and to be still is to awaken. And when you awaken, you finally see that you were never holding life at all. It was holding you, always. When you reach this point, something extraordinary happens. You stop searching. The endless quest for meaning, the desperate need to fix, to know, to control, finally dissolves into quiet understanding. You realize that the very act of chasing peace was what kept you from it. Alan Watts once said that the harder you try to swim, the faster you sink, and now you understand why. Life was never demanding that you conquer it, only that you allow it. Letting go isn't the end of effort. It's the beginning of ease. It's the gentle exhale after a lifetime of holding your breath. And in that breath, you find home. In this homecoming, the world doesn't become perfect. You simply stop needing it to be. You see beauty where you once saw flaws, patience where you once saw delay, and purpose where you once saw pain. This is the freedom that Watts spoke of, not the escape from life's chaos, but the ability to dance within it. You no longer measure your worth by what you achieve or control. Your value simply is. You are no longer the one standing outside of life, trying to manage it. You are the pulse inside it, flowing, trusting, awake. Letting go also changes how you hold love. You stop grasping for it, and in doing so, you start radiating it. You love without demand, without fear, without the need for reciprocation. It's no longer something to receive. It becomes something you are. And from that space, you begin to notice how love naturally finds its way back to you in forms you never expected. Watts believed that when you stop chasing connection, you realize you were never disconnected. Love, like freedom, was never gone. It was simply waiting beneath the noise of your trying. And as the noise fades, stillness takes its place. Not the stillness of emptiness, but of fullness. The kind of peace that hums softly beneath every sound, every breath, every moment. You understand now that letting go doesn't mean losing control of life. It means finally aligning with its intelligence. The river doesn't need your instructions. It already knows where to go. All it ever needed was your willingness to flow with it. And as you do, you discover what's called the art of living, the effortless harmony between doing and being, between surrender and creation. So if these words have found you, it's not by accident. Maybe this is your reminder to stop fighting the current and start trusting it, to loosen your grip on what's gone and open your hands to what's coming. If something in you felt lighter while listening, share it, not just with others, but with yourself. Leave your reflection below. Let someone else find comfort in your insight. And if this message spoke to you, stay close. Subscribe, like, and continue walking with us through these moments of awakening. Because in the end, life is not about holding on. It's about learning to let go beautifully, and finally, to let yourself be free.